Alright, I'm gonna start a series on Road to 1975 World Championship match that we never was because Fischer said like, nah, I'm not gonna play anymore. But we'll start from the interzonal phase of this qualification cycle. Basically, you had 2 round-robin tournaments of 18 players based on qualifications. I think were like a bunch of people coming from the previous candidate cycle. You had people coming from Junior World Championships. For instance, Karpov, I think, was from there. Then you had qualifications via the zonal tournaments. So like a more localized tournaments, the zonals. And then this is the interzonal bigger collection where we were playing for 8 candidate spots for matches, where already 2 were filled up with Spassky from the loser of the last World Championship match versus Fischer. And then you had the Petrosian, the loser of the last candidate final. And then basically you were since we played 2 interzonals, you had 6 qualification spots, so 3 per tournament. And the Leningrad, where we can start from, won by Korchnoi and Karpov, and the third qualifier was Robert Byrne from USA. But this had quite a bunch of really strong players. It's Mikael Hübner, Larsen, Guzmin, Tal, Skligorich, Taimanov, etc. Taimanov and Bent Larsen, of course, were from the previous candidate cycle, for instance, and were swept away by Fischer 6-0 both. But that happens. The two tournaments were tried to make into a equally strong ones by selection of Maxov and Arpad Elo, the creator of Elo rating system. So they were rating wise they were really close in average. Still you had for instance, Bent Larsen was not really happy about being selected into this Leningrad tournament. He thought was much stronger than the Petropolis tournament played in Brazil. But let's look at some games from the round 1. Miguel Cuellar-Uhlmann versus Cuellar-Uhlmann from the round 1. Cuellar is white, starts with c4. Is the view okay? Seems to be. And Uhlmann goes with e5, the reverse Sicilian. Basically, you have the Sicilian, but reverse colors. So white is playing the Sicilian tempo up usually. Goes with knight c3 and knight f6. And white goes for the Fianchetto, basically playing the dragon as white. And there we get this bishop b5. Often trying to even, or not worrying about losing the bishop, we just take it and take the knight. If it's beneficial, double the pawns and cause some problems for white. Wreck the pawn structure a little bit. White keeps developing, not worrying about this. Black castles and white brings the knight out. Here black played rook e8, but they could always go with the harassment with the e4. White has a lot of choices here. I mean, basically this happened. Move later on. Could go with the knight d4 or knight g5. Here he doesn't have the e1 square he chose in the game, because white hasn't castled yet. But the problem with d4 is, even though it does disturb white's pieces, it's also a little bit isolated from the rest of the forces, since you don't have d5 to defend the pawn. So something like knight g5 and the pawn is a little bit exposed here. Probably have to keep the bishop up immediately to be able to defend it. Something like this could happen. But in the game we got rook e8, defend the pawn first. And white castled. And then we got e4. Again the same. Knight could go here, knight could go here. In the game he went here. At least it's out of the way. Maybe we are going here. The ideas. So does support this f3 d3 moves. Can recapture with the knight if needed. And here, well, that was not attacked, but black took at this moment. And now white has some choices which way to take back. B takes is I mean in a principled way, taking towards the center, having more central pawns. The downside, of course, that it is keeping the queen and the bishop still locked in. Here you could end up with the pawn is a little annoying there. But yeah, there's a line of there's a lot of games that have gone with f3 and trying to get rid of this pawn, and then you have a kind of massive pawn center there going on. Here like c5 is, I think there's a bunch of strong game players have played this way, and it does look a little bit quite got this, but it has to work still how to get those pawns going. But I think white has done pretty well in this position. This is not yet winning a piece because black has the in between check here. Get out of that pin. But yeah, seems to be that this has been scoring really well for white. Could have been a way to go. The game, white took with the d pawn instead. It has some upsides and downsides, of course. You have you have a harder time making any kind of a central mass, but you do open up the queen and the bishop immediately. But I don't know, this of course is not your ideal queenside pawn formation. And there's some lines in them later on in the game where that is quite relevant, that this mass here ends up being against. I mean, some possible lines could have gone with the pawn endgames just are winning for black. Alright, so we opened the bishop up and also covered these just in case, but mostly we just open up the bishop. Of course, this is still a little exposed, but it's defended well enough. White's bringing out the pieces. Bishop could come here, but first we choose to bring out the knight somewhere. He has options, even here. And black develops. And white plays b3. Mainly to defend this pawn. I don't think the bishop has any kind of a prospects on this side of the part, so it's not really to fianchetto the bishop. But just in case that these kind of moves are not hitting a pawn. Solid, but of course not the ideal pawn formation for sure. Black says no. Takes away squares. And white brings the bishop to e3. Black played b6, saying no c5s, trying to get rid of this weak, well, doubled pawn. The harassment is not really worth it, because white could go here. And the c5, even though it looks like, yes, I get the bishop, but after takes and takes, you end up with quite a bad looking pawn on d6, and a quite nice square for the white pieces to work on d5. Would be pretty nice to play as white. But here it's more about containment. let white have this mess of a pawns here. Queen d2. I mean, these are definitely not any kind of a threats, but to connect the rooks and defense the bishop. But it doesn't look that great for white at the moment. It's hard to come up with a good plan. Alright, so bishop comes to b7. It's blocked by the pawn, but also it is now really overprotected. And now the rooks are connected. And it has some ideas for the later on. Rook d1. I mean, maybe someday we could dream about b4, c5 and use this d5 battery to get something going on. Well, black brings the knight to e5. Now it's handy that this is still double defended. It's only attacked once, but still defended twice. And white just drops the queen away to have the rook lined up with the queen now. Like maybe we are now threatening c5 and takes and got rid of the backwards pawn there. No, not that, well, double pawn. And white, black says, nah, I'm getting out of there. Queen is lining up to the light squares. And here white plays a kind of natural looking move, h3, saying no to anybody entering here. But sadly this is the losing move. Big mistake, because he missed black's shot here. Knight f3. Bang. Idea is that if you take, we'll take. And now you can save the bishop. But then we are hitting here with the knight incoming too. Made threats here. You have to kind of go for a rook here, and then you have a... I mean, you can just give up this, and black's already gotten his piece back. The ideas with coming up here, and the bishop is completely shut down in the corner. That's no good at all. So white did not take that pawn, the knight. Instead he moved the king. We have discovered. But Uhlmann just comes in with the rook e5. Idea to swing here, take here and say checkmate. The queen lined up here too. Alright. Well, white goes with the knight e1. Can I take here, please? And black goes with his plan. Sad reality is that you cannot really take here because of the... Well, here you can even go fancy with queen sack here. The mate to follow. Yeah. Sadly, the he takes f3 is not possible. White tried h4 instead. Sidestep from this. Don't allow them to sack there. But black brings the queen in there. Again, somebody could be taking here. Well, probably not the queen anymore. Well, now white took. Black takes back. Bishop is indeed trapped completely, so there's no square, so you has to come out, give the piece back. Bishop takes, now threatening this because the bishop is pinned. So white took, queen takes, and king g1. And here g5 was probably a mistake. Black was supposed to, well, more clean was rook e8, bring all the pieces to the attack. g5 still black's better, but this gives some chances for defense. For instance, bishop d4 could have been the way to go here. Still pretty good looking for white or black, but some kind of a bailout to this. Still not the most pleasant end game, but at least there's the extra pawn is doubled h pawn. Of course, there's doubled f pawn too. Black's definitely still on the better side of this mess, but could have saved at least from the mate. Well, this was not losing completely at the rook d4 instant either, but now black does bring the rook into the attack too. Someday maybe. Or, well, white errors with the queen d1. They should have defended the e1 or the e3 against these ideas. And takes here and everything is collapsing. Something like, I mean, I think these are the moments where suddenly it's like problem is that you can play f3, for instance, in some kind of line like here, and taking looks like all right. Pawns are 6-6, but you realize that now the mess on this queen side means that it's 3 versus 2 on this side. So black can, in these kind of situations, for instance, always bail out the pawn end games, even with the equal pawns, and still be completely winning, because he can make a passer pawn on this side, and then usually the outside passed pawn is going to be a nice distraction for the black king, probably to sneak and eat this side. Well, this guy is distracted by a passer pawn. So probably would not have helped rook e1, but white goes with queen d1 instead, allowing rook takes e3. And now if you take the queen, we end up piece up. So you have to take the rook, but then queen takes g3. This is still defended, but black plays a really nice move. g4, blocking that defense there. Rook's coming here. There's nothing you can do about it. Knight's hanging, but this is a mate threat. So white resigned here. All right. Well, next time, new game. This was from the round 1 of the Leningrad 1973 Interzonal tournament.